Hello! So you asked for it and you voted that you want to see my workflow and how I edit the wildlife photos that I have. So let's do it together. I'm gonna show you the workflow and we're gonna edit this photo together from start to finish. Also, before I forget, YouTube is not the main platform where I'm posting, and it would really help me and motivate me to make more content for YouTube if you give me a follow on the channel and if you give a thumbs up to this video if you liked it in the end. That would really help me and motivate me to make more content on traveling, editing, and wildlife in Africa in general. So yeah, do so, and then I will make more content for it. I'm going to show you the first step that I'm doing to edit my wildlife photos. The first thing I'm doing is to handle the basic adjustments, the curve, and mixing of the color, as well as color grading. This is the first step I'm doing all the time to get the look I want. To speed up the process, I'm going to use one of my presets that I'm using, and this is usually the editing I go for when I'm editing wildlife photography. So you can see what I'm doing with the basic settings. This is the curve I like to do for my wildlife photography. As for the mixing, this is what I'm using for the luminance of the color, the saturation, and the hues. For color grading, I don't usually like to use it. I just add a little bit of brown in the shadows, very slightly, to give that wild look to it, but that's about it. So now let's dive into the fun part. Once you have the step one that is done, which is this one, I like to go into the masking tools. So by clicking up there in Lightroom and choosing the masking tool, the first thing I'm going to do is to create some depth on the photo so that my subject stands out. I'm going to select the background, like so, and I'm going to drop the exposure of it. Not too much, just a little bit so that the subject stands out. I'm going to click the plus button and I'm going to select a subject, which is the leopard. I'm going to enhance it slightly by increasing the exposure, and I'm also going to add some contrast to it. Nice. I like it like this. This next thing I'm going to do is to make sure that my leopard blends in. So I'm going to use a brush. I'm going to drop the exposure. I'm going to increase the size of a brush, and I'm going to brush around him without exactly brushing on him so that he doesn't stand out that much and look like he was copy pasted out of Photoshop. So I'm just going to blend him in on the edges and make sure he blends in more with the background around him. Perfect. Good, and now I'm going to increase this to my liking as much as I want until I feel like it feels natural. So that feels better for me. Next thing I'm going to do is to create a gradient filter and make this little one pop up a little bit more and have less distraction in the background. So I'm gonna grab a gradual filter like this. I'm going to drop, first I'm going to make sure by clicking on the mask and clicking on the minus sign, I'm going to select the subject, and that's gonna automatically deselect my leopard. And there I can drop the exposure to bring some depth on the photo and make it more interesting. I also want to focus the area of the light on this direction, which is why I'm closing it on the right side. Now that we're good with this, what I'm going to do is to select a brush, and I'm going to give more depth and contrast on the leopard. Again, I'm going to drop the exposure on my brush, and I'm going to use a medium-sized brush, and I'm going to brush over any area where there is some darkness on the leopard. So where naturally there will be some shadows, I'm going to brush over it and create more contrast. Very precisely, I'm gonna give the little cat a very nice cat eye, and I'm going to increase the darkness on the eyes, which is gonna make it pop. Very nice. Now I'm going to do the opposite of what I was doing. I'm going to select a brush, and with this brush I'm going to increase the exposure and I'm going to increase the white. I'm gonna first start off with a very thin brush, and I'm gonna brush over the white spot on the eyes to make it pop really much. and that's gonna give like the best effect on the eyes. And very precisely, I'm also going to do so just on the bottom circle of the eye of the leopard. Same thing here. Make sure it pops out. Okay. One more time. Different brush. I like to use different brush to have more control if I want to go over it later on. I'm gonna brush over the white spot here because I really want that to pop. Good. Now with another brush that's gonna be a little bit wider, I'm gonna zoom out on my photo. I'm going to brush over any area that's normally white and make it stand out by increasing the exposure and increasing the whites. Last but not least, I'm going to add a radial filter. And with this one, I'm going to increase the temperature. And I'm also going to increase the exposure a little bit. All right. Now that I'm done with this, I'm gonna review the photo in general and see if there's a mask I want to adjust again. For example, I think that I'm a little bit distracted by this area at the bottom, so I'm going to use another mask. I'm gonna use a linear mask, drag it from the bottom up. With this one again, same thing, I'm gonna click on the mask and I'm gonna subtract the subject. So it's gonna select the paws of the leopard and remove them from the selection, which will allow me to drop the exposure on the mask without having this happening on the paws of the leopard and make him stand out more. After that, if I want to add some very nice smoky effect, I would go in Photoshop, which is the next step I'm going to show you. But on this one so far, this is what we got. Okay, so we're opening Photoshop. The first thing I'm going to do is to press Command J to create a first copy of the background that I'm going to work with. What I'm gonna do now is to select B for brush, and I have a set of brush that I'm using to create smoky effects. Now, what I like to do with the smoky effects is to have the opacity quite low on this, and I can also reduce the flow of it to make it a little bit more natural. I want to select by pressing Ctrl and Option and dragging my mouse the size of the brush to make it quite big so that it doesn't look unnatural. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, selecting a white color. This is going to create some smoke. Now what I like to do with this one is to press X to access the other color on the other side and to use a black one. And with a black one, I'm going to press again on it to dim it and not make it as strong and bring it more naturally. Using a beige color, I'm gonna go over it again, and that's gonna give me a dusty effect. Obviously, the less opacity you give, the more natural the result, and this one it's quite obvious. I just wanted to show you how it works and how I do it. I usually spend quite a lot of time doing this, so if I speed up the process, you're going to see the end result that I'm getting. After bringing it in Photoshop and working out the different fog that I like to create on the background, this is the end result of what I get, and this is the workflow I'm using for my wildlife photography. So after processing it in Photoshop, this is the end result that I'm getting, having worked out the smoke in the background compared to the initial photo. Now you have my whole workflow. I hope you liked the video. I hope you learned something or that it gave you a process on how I'm doing this and it was helpful. And I will see you on the next one. Bye!